Hello and welcome back. We are continuing where we left off on part 3 of the mod installation section of the guide. Next up was the animations and skeleton section, starting with cinematic dragon soul absorption. It does have a faux mod. Let's see. Music only, build music. Oh, speaking of which, according to the note here, the default build music and scream option is set to music because that's the way Lexy prefers it. You are free to choose other options. It will not impact the guide in any way. So just in case you don't like those particular options, feel free to change them. Let's see. Build music and scream. We want music only, build music. There we go. Next up, we want mixed endings. Next up, we want scripted fire explosion and floating animation. Excuse me. Next, install. Alright, moving on, we have dragon animation replace in special edition. Set data again. Okay. Wow, not sure why my throat got itchy all of a sudden. Alright, moving on. We have an optional for that mod. Being an optional, it needs to have its name changed. What is the optional? Standing breath option. I'm just going to change that to... There we go. Next up, we have D13, faster get up, stand up animation, vanilla friendly. I do believe this is the first animation mod I ever installed. I'm getting deja vu, so I may have mentioned that on a previous video. Next up, we have Nemesis, unlimited behavior engine. Which is probably installed manually, but it is still installed in Mod Organizer, so there we go. Open. Looks good. Alright, once it's installed, we have to add the executable into Mod Organizer. Go to the data folder, tab, that's the word I'm looking for. And I've got to remember where it is. Nemesis engine. Nemesis Unlimited Behavior Engine.exe. That's the one we're looking for. And if you right click on that, you can add as executable. Name's fine. Click OK. And now it should show up in the drop down. Back to downloads. Moving on to immersive animations. It has a faux mod. And I'm going to need to maximize that one. Alright, so we want the main menu or main module and sneaking. We want strafe, great sword sprint, dual wield swords on back, dual axe wield, dual dagger wield, dual mace wield. We want rogue stab, and install. Next up, 360 movement behavior. Set data, looks good. Next up, blocking animation pack. Set data, looks good. Next up, dual wield animation, or improved animation rather. Set data twice, looks good. No spinning death animation. Looks good. CBPC as a faux mod. We want Skyrim Special Edition. We want 1.597. It's already selected. There we go. We want UNPB. And we want install gravity config. I'm sorry, I thought I turned that air conditioner off. 1 second. Apologies for the jump cut. I realized that the air conditioner is a lot louder than I originally thought, so I've started trying to turn it off before I start recording. Must have forgotten. Alright, so we finished that. We do have a special instruction though. We need to open SKSE plugins, and then there's a text file. We're looking for CBP collision config.txt. And we want to change extra options belly bulge equals 0. Okay. Save. Close. Next up, immersive CBP config. Wow. Bit of a tongue twister, that one. Looks good. Next up we have XP32 Maximum Skeleton Special Edition. And of course I unmaximized way too soon. Alright, first up we have first two, which are automatically selected. Then we have physics extensions. Next. We want race menu. Next. We want none. Next. We want none, 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 and none. So none on all of these. Just double check. Yeah, and none there. Good. Next, we have none and none. Then we have none 3 times. None and none. That's one we have to change. And lastly, none. Well, not lastly. And none again. Just double check. Yeah. Alright. Next up, absolute arachnophobia. Again, if you suffer from arachnophobia, you might want to skip this one. Set data. Looks good. Set data, looks good. Set data, looks good. Bullish bovine, set data, looks good. Callous Dwemer centurions, set data, looks good. Dramatic deer, set data, looks good. Dreaded dwarven spider, again, possible arachnophobia triggers. Grandiose giants, set data, looks good. Grave gargoyles, looks good. Gritty goats, looks good. Hardy hares, looks good. Heartland horses, looks good. Heinous ash hoppers, looks good. Hellish hounds, oops. And this one, we do not want the ESP, so set data and just uncheck it. Okay. Next up we have honored hounds. Set data, looks good. Hulking horkers, looks good. Immersive dragons, looks good. Immersive smilodons, looks good. Infamous ice wraiths, looks good. Looming lurkers, looks good. Marvelous mud crabs, looks good. Mighty mammoths, looks good. Nightmare Chaurus, looks good. Notorious Netches, looks good. Reekling Reavers, looks good. Reekling Rough Riders, looks good. Salty Slaughterfish, whoops. Looks good. And let's go ahead and activate all of these since I haven't been activating them as we go. I'm going to activate all of them, and then I'm going to go ahead and deactivate Salty Slaughterfish because I don't use it in my game. I didn't really like the way they end up looking, but I'm going to go ahead and have it installed just for completeness. Next up, Savage Bear. Okay. Next up we have Sickening Skeevers. Sinister Spriggans. Supreme Dwemer Spheres. Supreme Chaurus Hunters. Supreme Seekers. Looks good. Supreme Vampire Lords. Looks good. Next up, tyrannical trolls. Looks good. Wicked werewolves. Looks good. Alright, on to skin and body. Has a faux mod. Next up, we want the core files. We want Retruvia 4K. We want nude cut. Next, we want none, 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 and none. And install. Okay, and it does have an optional, and according to this we need to merge them, so let's see, was that a, yeah, fix for broken Forsworn boot meshes. We want it to be be faster to copy and paste, I think. Looks good. And apparently I did not type it right because well, easy enough to fix. Just do it again. Looks good. Okay. And we want to merge. Okay. Oh, did I? Thought I unchecked it. Alright, moving on. We also need to go to Meshes, Close, and delete the Forsworn folders. So, File Tree, Meshes, Close, and we were deleting Forsworn. Okay, close that. Next up, Vision, Skin, UNP, and CVBE. Again, has a faux mod. We want 4K shaved. We want 4K default. We want 4K default. We want 4K default again. Next up, we want keep default and keep default. Next up, we want 4K default. Next up, default and default recommendation. And we want pretty install. Alright. Easy enough. Moving on, we have cover Khajiit male version. Set data. Set data. Looks good. Next up, we have feminine Khajiit textures, which has a faux mod. Next, we want 4K res pack. We want gray cat and furry. Alright, install. Next up also has a faux mod, so let's go ahead and have that open. Feminine Argonian textures. Next, 4K res pack. And we want lizard and full scales. Install. Next up we have Blessed Body, faux mod. It's only got two options, so TBBP and nude. And nude. Alright, on to NPCs and behavior. We have Bring Out Your Dead. Looks good. It has a BSA, but we do not need to extract. Alright, there is a faux mod ahead. I was going to say if there's no more faux mods for a while I can go back to split screen, but there is a faux mod, so no for extracting. Next up we want Diverse Skyrim. Looks good. Again, no to the faux mod. Or no to the extraction rather. Wow. Sorry. Alright. Immersive Citizens, AI overhaul. So we want core, none, patch. Apologies for the cut. Had some coughing and actual sneezing going on. I don't know why. Not sick. Okay. Let's double check and make sure we have the right options selected. We have core, we have none and none, we have the patch selected and not selected for that one. Okay, install. And again, no for extracting. Next up. Okay, I think we can go back to split screen now. Next up, Immersive Patrols. Looks good. No for extracting. Guard Dialogue Overhaul. Looks good. No for extracting. Relationship Dialogue Overhaul. Looks good. No for extracting. We need to, oh, and an optional. Hang on. And I believe this is the one we needed to remove. RDO USEP patch. Yes. Okay. And I forgot to rename it, so let's rename it now. Okay. Oh, it's more than I thought that I forgot to activate. There we go. Activate all of those. And the patch that we did install can be flagged as an ESL, so let's go to SSE edit, run. Select none. Oops. And we are looking for this patch. Okay. Alright, background loader finished. We go to flags, edit, yes, and ESL, okay, and close. Next up, Serana dialog edit. looks good. No to extracting. Next up, sky test realistic animals and predators. Looks good. No for extracting. And we need to delete the ESP for that one. File tree, delete. Yes. Close. Next up, the SkyTest integration project, which has 3 files. They're all main files, so they'll be installed into their own folders. First up, immersive creatures, SkyTest, manual, looks good. Okay. Next up, the SkyTest no extra spawns. Again, change the name, manual, looks good. And lastly, SkyTest vanilla and DLC creature extension. Looks good. Activate all of those. And you'll notice that the no extra spawns had the file that we were deleting out of the original one, so that's the replacer. You do need to know that for when we get to the merges section, because you'll be looking for that file, and that's where it is. I think there's a notice there though to point you in the right direction. Anyway, moving on. Critters 8 snitches. Set data, looks good. Next up, True Hunter, less animals per square meter. And that looks like an easy enough faux mod. Oops. And we want the pretty sure we want the MCM version. The faux mod's different, but fairly certain that's going to be the one we want. Yeah, because it says MCM here. They just converted or combined it down into 2 options instead of having all of these options. Okay. I could be wrong, but I think that's the correct option. Alright, SkyTest, less fear patch. Wait, did I not download this one? Or is this... I missed an optional. Okay, that's why. And it was supposed to be before the True Hunter thing, but that's okay. We can fix that. So we do want this, and this is the SkyTest RA and P patch. Set data again. Okay. Let's go ahead and activate those, and we will move this one above True Hunter since it should have been installed before we got to True Hunter. Alright, now we're on to the SkyTest Less Fear patch. Again, that came from a patch hub, so we need to make sure we name it correctly. Set data, looks good. Next up, Omega Lexy LOTD Animal Merged Consistency Patch. It's a mouthful. And again, make sure it's named correctly. Manual. Set data, looks good. Next up, protect your people. Better NPC protection. Looks good. Next up, new followers and NPCs. Immersive College NPCs has a faux mod. I can see which options are selected, so maybe I don't need to maximize for this one. We want the main, we don't want that one, we want standard face gens, and we don't want the changelog, so basically just hit install. There is a BSA we do not need to extract. Okay, next up we have Inigo. Manual. Set data twice. Looks good. And again, no for extracting. Excuse me. We want to run the SSE edit quick auto clean on the Inigo, so run. Oh, we don't have to select none because the auto clean only doesn't have them all selected by default. So Inigo, okay. Alright, it's finished, so we can close. Moving on, we have interesting NPCs. Manual. Looks good. We'll do that after we install. This might take a second. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording until it's done. Alright, and we're back. That took a little bit of time, so it's a good thing I paused. Moving on, we have an update file to install. And since it is an update, we don't need to change the name. Just go straight to manual, looks good, and click merge. Okay, let's activate that. Open it up. We go to file tree, and we need to go to scripts and delete animal3d npc.pex. We need follower inpc. And follower 3D npc.pex. Alright, delete those three. Close that. Next up, we have interesting NPCs. Zora Fairchild's voice boosted. Wait a minute. I almost installed something that was already installed. Alright, manual looks good. Next up, that one, yeah. Looks good. This one does need the BSA extracted. So yes. Then it has two optional files, salt and wind patch. Manual looks good. And the other salt and wind patch, more via fix. Looks good. Okay. Let's go ahead and activate all of those. And we need to delete the ESP. Whoops. File tree. Yep. moving on, we have interesting NPC Zora Customizer, which has a faux mod, and I definitely need to maximize that one. Oops, going the wrong direction. Alright, so we want default and none. We want lighter eyebrows. We want UNP blessed body. We want SG female texture. And the wet specular map. Nope, we don't want that one. Sorry. Not paying attention. Next, we want nude and TBBP CBP physics. Next. 3D interesting NPC default armor scaled. Install. Okay, and then we need to delete the ESP for that, or at least one of the ESPs if there's multiple. Let's see. File tree. Nope, just the one. Delete. Close that. Next up we have Lucian, fully voiced follower. Looks good. Does not need to be extracted. Oops. Next up, Mercy's Tales of Trouble as a faux mod. But we're skipping two of the Lucian optional patches. I am not paying attention today. Wow. Alright, so Moon and Star patch first. Looks good. No on extracting. Moonpath Elsewhere patch. Looks good. No on extracting. Now on to Mercy's Tales of Trouble. We want main file. We want... yeah, that. We want UNP. We want main, no underwear, main gold, and no. Install. And again, no for extracting. We do need to delete the ESP. Close that. Next up we have delayed start. Was that a... is that a manual? I'm not seeing it. I swear I downloaded all of the manual stuff. Maybe I just missed that mod. No big deal. We can always just download a new copy. And we want delayed level 30. Manual looks good. Close that. Next up we have Salt and Wind, rough hair for KS hairdos. Looks good. Next up, The Ordinary Women. Looks good. Next up, Pandorable's NPC, Salt and Wind Texture. Looks good. Looks good. Next up, Vision Family, Salt and Wind Textures. This one has a foam mod. We want NPCs, we want War Maiden, we want Wives, we want Sarana and Valerica. Next, 1.8 is what we want. Install. Alright, and that finishes that section. We're on to vanilla item, retextures, and tweaks. And I may be over time actually, because I'm not sure how long all of the various parts of this are going to end up being. But thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.